Friends, under the postgraduate program in Visual Arts and in the subject of Aesthetics and Philosophy, we are planning to discuss the Renaissance aesthetics today. Normally the Renaissance period is considered from 1400 to 1600 very broadly, and we know the developments before this particular period. The 14th century was a time of great crisis. The 100 years of war and turmoil of the Catholic Church shook the people's faith in the government, the religion and their fellow men. In this dark period, Europeans sought a new start, a cultural rebirth, a renaissance. The Renaissance or rebirth was a cultural movement that first had its roots in Florence, Italy, before spreading to the rest of Europe. Italians rediscovered the writing, philosophy, art and the architecture of ancient Greeks and Romans and began to see antiquity as a golden age which held answers to the re-energizing their society. It is believed that the Renaissance was born in Florence due to the influence of the Medici family, who were patrons of the art. They encouraged the commissioning of art and encouraged others to follow suit as well. The rethinking of arts and culture led to a significant influence and change in the way people saw humans, art, religion and space. Humanistic education based on rhetoric, ethics and the liberal arts was pushed as a way to create well-rounded citizens who could actively participate in the political process. Humanists celebrated the mind, beauty, power and enormous potential of human being. They believed that people were able to experience God directly and should have a personal emotional relationship to their faith. God had made the world, but humans were able to share in His glory by becoming the creators themselves. The humanistic scholars of this particular period, in 14th and 15th century, are mainly Ficino, Pomponazzi, Tycho, Petrarch and Manet. In the Middle Ages, the monasteries became very important. Total belief in the religion. Churches became more and more strong, and obviously that kind of absolute strength led to corruption. It became more ritualistic, esoteric, got in the grips of the primitive people, disillusioned by the churches. Poor who have nothing, who can't enter into the church, and only the rich people could confess and enter into it. Augustine and Ambrose created some doctrines, certain faiths of the churches. That's why called doctors of the churches. A book of Augustine on the dignity and excellence of man. Under these circumstances, Augustine and Ambrose created some doctrines. There was a general belief, a general faith about the Renaissance in the New Age. Actually, what they were trying to believe in is Renaissance focuses on the human as the center of the world. Man is the center of study and learning. They believed that man is not worthless in the eyes of God, but God's most perfect creation. The physical universe is the mirror of divine truth, and hence it has to be studied, appreciated and loved. But at the same time, this world is unknowable. It is a mystery. Renaissance starts with reality and realism. We can know it through knowledge. Reason is reintroduced in Renaissance. We will just give a brief thought to the important scholar of this period. The most important of them is Petrarch, who believed that God created the world not for himself, but because he never needed it, but he created it for the men. Most perfect creation. Hence, he wanted us to fulfill our lives, comprehend joys of living, beauty and wonders of nature, human relationship, desire, ambitions, and hence Petrarch allowed us for progress. He encourages the notion of progress. Who believed that God placed man at the center of the universe so that he is free to turn in whichever direction he wants to, and has the freedom to choose not only the course but also the object of his action. Hence we understand Renaissance as an attitude towards life and redefine man's relationship with God and the world. By making man the highest creature, Ficino was trying to say that after man, God created nothing. That is his final creation. Each individual is unique and important and endowed with sufficient capacity and potential to understand and make decisions concerning his own destiny. Hence, man's personality has to be focused. All his learning and doing and the purpose with which he was born had an intimate need to grow and actualize. Man in the focus, showing all-round development, was seen as beautiful. Both his soul and body were made beautiful out of love. Ficino also stated that humanism in Renaissance was born from the ambivalent and opposite and conception of humanists, which are two opposite views. One, insistence on human values of rationality and freedom. And two, acceptance of the fallibility, which is full of sin, and frailty, which is mortality. That man is a twofold nature, a mean between mortal and immortal things, eternal and temporal things, and hence he can either rise to be like the god and fall to be like a beast. Pomponazzi, who was also a writer, says man has made souls the vegetative, sensitive and intellect. For the two first souls, whose physical body is acquired as instrument and the gain morality. But in operation like knowing and willing, he did not need the body instrument to perform. Since they proved separability and immateriality, and these became means to assume immortality. So he was given a soul. Therefore, man is neither purely eternal nor purely temporal. He must partake of both natures. The power is given to him to assume whichever nature he wishes. Hence, there are three kinds of men to be found. He refuted the further philosophization. He said, if the soul is mortal, then man will not get complete pleasure. The good hate sin from love of virtue. The evil hate sin from fear of punishment. Ficino brought the concept of love, very much influenced by Plotinus's Neoplatonism. The word of idea, Ficino called, God turned chaos into order through love, through infusion of divine light, impact of love, and by giving form to things, there was completion of love. This composition of all forms and ideas we call in Latin mundus, Greek cosmos. Ficino calls it orderliness, and what attracts you to this world is this orderliness, which is beauty. Hence, the nature of love is this, that it attracts to beauty and links with unbeautiful with the beautiful, and hence the concept of divine love, to believe in God, is to love. Two kinds of love, because we are two-fold creatures. One, the earthly, and second, the intellectual or ideal, which also is popularly known as the Platonic. Manetti believed that God is the one who knows all. Man must try to know for more. He knows he will be godlike. You can't serve God. He can't be pleased through blind faith and the rituals for reasoning and knowledge. And man is noblest being to serve the God. These new cultural movements gave inspiration to artists. While Italy's trade with Europe and Asia produced wealth that created a large market for art. Prior to the Renaissance period, art was largely commissioned by the Catholic churches, which gave artists strict guidelines about what the finished product was to look like. Medieval art was decorative, stylized, flat and two-dimensional, and did not depict the world or human beings realistically. But a thriving commercial economy distributed wealth not just to the nobility but to merchants and bankers who were eager to show their status by purchasing works of art. The church remained a large patron of the arts, obviously, as well. Artists were allowed greater flexibility in what they were to produce, and they took advantage of it by exploring new themes and techniques. At about the beginning of the 15th century, a profound revolution took place in the way art was made under the influence of revolutionary artists such as Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, and the great Florence architect Filippo Brunelleschi, who discovered linear perspective, enabling artists not only to create a seductive illusion of the three-dimensional world on a flat two-dimensional surface for the very first time, but also to combine real and imaginary space in a single planning by studying light and darkness in the drawings. A new centered naturalism based on the drawing from life entered into art. During this period, artists were commissioned by wealthy patrons to create works of art for them. Their works could include portraits of the patron's family or fantasy works. At the same time, there was a quickened interest in the arts of the classical world, a new wish to profit by the lessons to be learned from the Greeks and the Romans. This was the very meaning of the Renaissance, a rebirth of learning and skills, a rescuing of that which was at risk of disappearing forever. And just as important, drawing came to be practiced as never before. In this background, we'll try to understand the Renaissance aesthetics and its notion of beauty. Even so, despite the growing realism being achieved in their art, high Renaissance artists aspired to beauty and harmony more than realism. Their paintings may have been based on nature, but they had no interest in mere replication. Instead, they looked for ultimate truth in a study of the classical world of Greek and Roman culture. It was this that provided artists with an idea of perfection, their aesthetics. Thus, Greek philosophy provided the secret of the perfect human type with its proportions, muscular structure, oval face, triangular forehead, straight nose, and the balance, with the weight on the hip, all of which can be seen in the painting of Raphael and the immense expressive sculpture of Michelangelo. The latter, in particular, was never afraid to bend the realistic rules of anatomy and proportion in order to increase the power of expression. It was through classical Greek philosophy that Renaissance theorists and the artists developed their idea of humanism. Humanism was a way of thinking which attached more importance to man and less importance to God. It imbued the Renaissance art with its unique flavor, as exemplified in the works like Leonardo's Mona Lisa, which is a non-religious painting, Michelangelo's David, a more human than religious statue, and Raphael's cool secular fresco like School of Athens. Even when high Renaissance artists painted religious paintings or sculpted a religious scene, very often they were not glorifying God but man. They were exalting the ideals of classical aesthetics. Paradoxically, a few mythological works such as Jupiter and Lo, which was painted in 1533 by Correggio, do the opposite. They don't glorify men but gods. In the visual arts, humanism stood for 1. The emergence of the individual figure in place of stereotyped or symbolic figures. 2. Greater realism and consequent attention to details as reflected in the development of linear perspective and the increasing realism of human faces and bodies. This new approach helped to explain why classical sculpture was so revered and why Byzantine art fell out of fashion. An emphasis on the promotion of virtuous action, an approach echoed by the leading art theorist of the Renaissance, Leo Battista Alberti, who lived from 1404 to 1472, when he declared happiness cannot be gained without good works and just and righteous deeds. The promotions of virtuous action reflected the growing idea that man, not fate or God, controlled human destiny, and was a key reason why history painting, that is pictures with uplifting messages, became regarded as the highest form of painting. Of course, the exploration of virtue in the visual arts also involved an examination of vice and human evil. The effects of the Renaissance on painting and sculpture can be observed as referred above. The Italian Renaissance was noted for four things: reverent revival of classical Greek or Roman art forms and styles, a faith in the nobility of man, that is humanism, the mastery of illusionistic painting techniques, maximizing the depth in the picture, including linear perspective, foreshortening, and finally the quadratura and the naturalistic realism of its faces and figures, enhanced by oil painting techniques like sfumato. The techniques that are used was obviously the perspective to add three-dimensional depth and space to the work. Renaissance artists rediscovered and greatly expanded the ideas of linear perspective, horizon, line and vanishing point. The linear perspective, rendering a painting with linear perspective, is like looking through a window and painting exactly what you see on the window pane. Instead of every object in the picture being of the same size, objects that were further away would be smaller, while those closer to you would be larger. The horizon line refers to the point in the distance where objects become so infinitely small that they have shrunken to the size of the line. The vanishing point is the point at which parallel lines appear to converge far in the distance, often on the horizon line. This is the effect you can see when standing on a railroad track and looking at the tracks recede into a distance. The shadows and lights, the artists of this period were interested in playing with the way light hits the object and creates shadows. The shadows and lights could be used to draw the viewer's eye to a particular point in the painting. And most importantly, the emotions. Renaissance artists wanted the viewer to feel something while looking at their work, to have an emotional experience for it. It was a form of visual rhetoric where the viewer felt inspired in their faith or encouraged to be better citizens. In realism and naturalism, in addition to the perspective, artists sought to make objects, especially people, look more realistic. They studied human anatomy, measuring proportions and seeking the ideal human form. People looked solid and displayed real emotions, allowing the viewer to connect with what the depicted person were thinking and feeling. The art of Renaissance, if we try to understand it in the line of beauty. In the Renaissance, an increasing emphasis on experience, artistic expression and individual achievements and skill shifted aesthetics away from beauty as a divine harmony towards beauty as a felt sensual first step towards the higher consciousness. The aesthetic play of art was something that an individual could feel rather than an intellectual union of the individual minds with the divine mind. Changes in the philosophy of beauty paralleled a changing status and function of art. No matter how skilled medieval artists were, largely anonymous conduits for a divine inspiration. As first Aristotelianism and then a revised Neoplatonism took hold, artists appeared as individuals whose skill exhibited their own perception as well as those communicated to them. Most of the elements remained the same, but artists now produced individual works about individual objects for individual consumers. Aesthetics, in its modern sense, a science of feeling, became possible. The moving spirit of Renaissance, Neoplatonism, was Marcellino Ficino, the first translator of Plotinus into Latin and the complete works of Plato. He founded the New Academy in 1462 when Cosimo de' Medici set him up in a villa with some Greek manuscripts to interpret and teach the Platonic philosophy. Ficino's definition of beauty is similar to Alberti's definition in that beauty participates in ordering of experience, as in consinitas, and beauty is a universal divine principle. For Ficino, beauty is a certain grace which most often originates above all in a harmony of several things. According to Alberti, Tonicitas seeks to compose parts that are quite separate from each other by their nature, according to some precise rule, so that they correspond to one another in appearance. As in Ficino's harmony of several things, grace arises from harmony in each of three types of beauty, depending on the quality of each in Ficino's hierarchy. As he wrote, from the harmony of several virtues in soul, there is a grace. From the harmony of several colors and lines in bodies, a grace arises. Likewise, there is a very great grace in the sounds from the harmony of several tones. Ficino defined three types of beauty in the Amore. The three types of beauty according to Ficino are beauty of the soul, beauty of the body, the beauty of the music, which are three manifestations of one principle as the members of the Trinity, are three manifestations of the divine. Of the three types of beauty, that of souls is known through the intellect, that of the bodies is perceived through the eyes, and that of sounds is perceived only through the ears. According to Ficino, in the Amore, the beauty of the body depends on three things: arrangement, proportion, and aspect. Arrangements means the distances between the parts, proportions means the quantity, and aspect means shape and color. For Ficino, in the Amore, the qualities of arrangement, proportions, and aspects are not actually a part of the body because they exist separately on an individual body, and thus belongs to the lineament of the body or the lines. In Alberti's terms, rather than the matter, Ficino asks, but who would call lines which lack breadth and depth, which are necessarily to the body? Arrangements entail spaces between parts rather than the parts themselves, and the proportions are boundaries of qualities which are surfaces and lines and points, or points, lines and planes, which Ficino defines as the qualities of essence, being and virtue in the opera omnia. Thus, for Ficino in the Amore, from all these things, it is clear that beauty is so alien to the mass of body that it never imparts itself to matter itself unless the matter has been prepared with the three incorporeal preparations which we have mentioned, which exist only in the mind as lineaments, through arrangements, proportions, and aspect, which are incorporeal qualities of the lineaments of the matter or intelligence, which are copied of divine ideas and principles. Both the heavenly splendor will easily shine in a body which is like heaven, and that perfect form of man which the soul possesses will turn out more clearly. Ficino explained, arrangement, proportion, and aspect are the perfect form which the soul possesses. The innate idea of the body is matter. The same formula can be applied to music. In the Theologica Platonica, Ficino defines the elements in the hierarchy of being in descending order as mind or mens, soul, and anima. In the Theologica Platonica, Ficino defines the elements in the hierarchy of being in descending order as mind, which is mens, soul, which is anima, nature or natura, and body or corpus. Ficino constructed a theory of vision as it is related to the cognition, in that it is necessary to construct in the mind what is perceived. Ficino explained vision and cognition as such in the Amore. When anyone sees a man with his eyes, he creates an image of the man in his imagination and then ponders for a long time, trying to judge that image. Then he raises the eyes of his intellect to look up the reason of man which is present in the divine light. Then suddenly from the divine light, a spark shines forth to his intellect and the true nature of man itself is understood. This image formed in the imagination corresponds to the lineament of Alberti. The spark shining from the divine light to the human intellect corresponds to Alberti's consonitas. It is clear that Ficino was influenced by Alberti in his concepts of consonitas, armoria, lineament, beauty, proportions, light and vision. Both of them together can give us some understanding of Renaissance aesthetics.